Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another session of Singapore International Dynamic Speakers. Today's theme is never giving up. We all know the story of the turtle and the hare, rabbit. The hare, is generally faster than the turtle, but the turtle won that race because the turtle didn't give up. And because the rabbit was so overconfident, he stopped by a pond, looked at the airs, fell asleep, and the turtle went on to win the race. So, guys, never be discouraged if you're not out in front leading the race. Never be discouraged if your progress is slower than others. Slow and steady, slow and sure will always allow you to prevail. In Napoleon's Hill, Think Rich, Grow Rich, he gave an analogy of a man digging for gold and then quitting 3 feet before he hit the gold stream. And that oftentimes happens to us. We toil away, and we become discouraged. We give up on our dreams, we give up on our ambitions, only to be beset by someone coming from behind and doing the same thing we were doing and succeeding. Guys, the key to success is to be persistent, to be consistent, to never giving up. Take a moment and reflect on yourself. What ambitions have you given up on that you can surely succeed on if you had persevered? If you had persevered, there are times I have given up. I thought about the first time I attempted to ride cross country here in Belize. I made it 50% of the way and decided, nah, I'll take the bus back. So my bicycle and myself got on the bus and came home, only to have a friend of mine a few weeks later cycle across the country of Belize. And he was in worse shape than I was, but he didn't give up. That motivated me to attempt it again and succeeded. But if I hadn't given up, I would have accomplished that task before he had. We all have these stories where we were trying to do something and fail because we simply did not persevere. If we truly desire to be successful, we must be persistent. We must be consistent. Guys, always remember, never, never give up. Today, we have a wonderful meeting planned for you. But before we get into our meeting, we have two first-time visitors with us. What is Toastmasters about? Toastmasters is a public speaking and leadership club. Here, you get to practice your speaking and your leadership abilities. There is an opportunity for you to speak every week and be evaluated, get pointers as to how you can improve, whether it's your eye contact, your crutches, ahs, ums, or simply the structure of your presentation. Each week, you get an opportunity to improve. The benefits of joining Toastmasters, you become more confident. You get more opportunities because you can articulate yourself better. Here in Toastmasters, there are 3 sections to the meeting. You have the prepared presentations, you have the impromptu presentation, and you have the evaluations. The prepared presentation is from pathways. Now there are 11 pathways, most of which you can start right out of the gate. The first is presentation mastery, where you are expected to learn all the speaking tools that you will need to be successful. Then there are other pathways that you can improve on based on your interest. In each meeting, there are facilitators such as the counter, the timer, the grammarian, the topic master, and the Toastmaster of the evening. The role of the Toastmaster of the evening is to be the MC. This is the person who manages the meeting and keep us in line with our agenda. The topic master is the MC of the impromptu session, presents us with topics that we can speak on in ad hoc. In those sessions, you have 2 minutes, give or take 30 seconds, to speak on the topic you're given. In that aspect, you are supposed to greet your audience. You're supposed to state your position in your opening, support your position with 2 or more points in the body, and in the conclusion, summarize your position and your points. Sounds like a lot to accomplish in 2 minutes, give or take 30 seconds, but in time, you will master it. The evaluation is where you get feedback on what you did well and how you can improve. And the feedback is for everyone in the meeting so that we can all grow from each other. Here, there is no need to be afraid of messing up, coming short, not doing it well the first time. We all started at some point. Most of us, when we started in the impromptu session, especially, we were unable to speak for a minute. Some of us only spoke for 30 seconds before we concluded. Now, some of us are speaking for the 2 minutes and then some. But it takes time to develop your skills. So do not be afraid to seize every speaking opportunity. That is how you grow. That is how you improve. The leadership aspect is where you take on the responsibility of being the timer for the evening, the counter or the grammarian, or even the topic master or the Toastmaster of the evening. Taking on these roles allow you to grow your leadership skill, managing time, managing the agenda of the meeting. This is where you come to grow. Guys, we have, like I said before, we have a great meeting for you. But before we get into the meat of our meeting, can I have a volunteer for our counter and for timer? Yes, Atman.
Can I be the timer?
You be the timer today?
Yeah.
Awesome. So Atman will be our timer and our counter.
I can be the counter if it's okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Anya. Okay, with those rules, Phil, a timer to keep us on track in our presentation, whether it's the impromptu, the manual presentation, or simply to keep us in line with our agenda, that rule is Phil. For us to remove the crutches from our presentation, the R counter, that rule is Phil. With that, let's get into one of my favorite portions of the meeting, the impromptu. This is where you're given a topic at random and you get to speak on it for 2 minutes, give or take 30 seconds. Again, in the impromptu session, remember to greet your audience in descending order. The highest ranked person in the room through to the guests. Here in Belize, if you are in front of the Prime Minister and his cabinet, it would be the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, ministers, ministers of state, member of the Senate, distinguished guests. Here at Toastmaster, it is President, Toastmaster of the evening, Toastmasters, and guests. Always greet your audience in descending order. As a Toastmaster, you must always know who is in the meeting with you? Who are your audience? That is the purpose why you greet in descending order. When you open your presentation, state your position or ask a rhetorical question or open with a quote or a phrase. The purpose of this is to let your audience know what you're talking about and to draw them in at the same time. Then, in the body of your presentation, you build on your point. Whatever your position is, support that position with 2 or more points. And then in conclusion, you summarize your position and your points. That is the structure for the table topic session. You greet your audience, you open, you present on your position, and you summarize in your conclusion. To get the ball rolling, tell us of the first time you attempted to bake a cake and how did it go? Tell us of the first time you attempted to bake a cake and how did it go? Toastmaster Angela.
Thank you for that interesting question, Mr. President and Table Topics Master Edward. As far as I can remember, the first time I made a cake, and it was a long time ago, it sank. Fortunately, I have a book which told you how to get rid of all kinds of problems. And now it seems so obvious I wouldn't even have to look it up. All you do if a cake sinks is to cut it in half and turn one half over. Now you can turn the whole thing over, then you've got a flat piece from the bottom, or you can turn the top half over. Or the third method is to pipe something around the edge, treat it as a bowl, and treat it as like a pavlova, which is a bowl-shaped meringue with fruit in the middle. So you pipe something like cream around the edge and put your fruit in the middle, and who would know that the cake had sunk in the middle? Nobody would know, and they'd probably think it looks absolutely brilliant and gorgeous. The only other thing is that if it's sunk in the middle, it's probably not a light cake, but it's become heavy. I like heavy cakes, but I also like moist cakes. So I would put some kind of syrup, except of course, syrup is not healthy, maybe fruit juice, even fruit juice from a tin on the top to moisten it. And I guarantee if you put fresh fruit on it and cream and ginger and sugar syrup we buy in London, oh, you would just love it. Never mind what happened to the first cake. I can now do a lovely cake. Please come to tea. Back to you, Edward.
Thank you, Toastmaster Angela. I'm glad to hear you improve on your cake making skills and that we are welcome to come to tea. Tell us of a time you came from behind to win. Tell us of a time you came from behind to win. Toastmaster Anya.
Thank you for the question, Mr. President and Toastmaster of the day. Hi, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to the rest of the Toastmasters and the guests. So I'm supposed to talk about a time when I came up from behind and won. And I can think of one such time, except that I had started at the top of my class. And my favorite subject used to be mathematics. I was really good at it. I was the fastest in my class and I was really proud of it. So in my head, I thought I was invincible, that nobody could even come close to how fast I do my calculations and how accurate my calculations are. But then in the middle of a year, another student joined from another school in another city, and he happened to be like really fast, and that really threw me off. And I was so jealous, and I have always been competitive, but at this point of time, I had lost my grip on how to get better at it. And for quite a while, I remember coming back home and cribbing about it to my parents. How could that guy come over suddenly and then take over as the fastest person in math in my class? But then gradually, I started noticing what he does, how he does his calculations, and I picked up a few tricks from him. And that made me, I think, improve my skill, my calculation speed, and my accuracy. And eventually, in that standard, in the 10th standard, which is the first time that we give board exams in India, so he scored 94 and I scored 100. So I stopped the race right there, and I think I came out on top. So yeah, thank you, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the day, Edward.
Excellent, excellent. Never give up, learn from your mistakes and improve. Well said, Anya. Tell us of the hardest thing you have had to learn to do. Tell us of the hardest thing you have had to learn to do. Otman.
Oh, Edward, are we voting on these? Do we have to be making a note of who said what? Or will you put it in the chat? Because I'm already confused.
No, we won't be voting on in this meeting today.
Okay.
We won't be voting today. Otman? Are you there?
Please repeat the question.
Sure. Tell us of the hardest thing you have had to learn to do. Tell us of the hardest thing you have had to learn to do.
Surely everyone in our life have a struggle with and strive to do something. And for me, I have one thing I can do more and more things to master this thing is the business, how you can sell something to someone. Because I'm interested in the world and how you can grow the world and how you can maybe this is your welfare or something, but it's difficult to maybe to pursue someone or to convince someone to buy or to buy something from you. Because I meet many friends, I have meeting some friends, some best experts in selling and buying the products and how you can buy the products, how you can convince someone by choose the price and the criteria and the decoration of the products. This is, I think, the most hard thing to how to get by someone to, because if you, it's simple, if you want, for example, be some rich man or something like that, you must be sell a mini products to many people or sell a small product or a little product for a lot of people with a high price. This is all for me, not you, everyone.
Excellent job, Otman. Yes, being a salesperson is quite difficult at times, but we persevere and we get better. Tell us of a time you failed and then retried and ultimately succeeded. Tell us of a time you failed, you retried, and then you ultimately succeeded. Azima. Okay, I guess that's Toastmaster. Azima is not there at the moment. Our guests, you have seen how to answer the topics in the impromptu session. Would any of you like to participate? Serene, would you like to take a question?
Okay. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, President, Mr. Edward, and Toastmasters and guests. So I'm a guest myself, and so to answer the question, one of the failures I've had is in my primary school leaving examination. So I had scored well for the preliminary examinations, but didn't do so well for the final examination, which ultimately decided on whether I would make it, which secondary school I would be able to attend. So I was really disappointed with my results in the end, and it did not meet my expectations. So I saw that as quite a huge failure. And yeah, even though I met with that failure, I made up my mind to decide to work hard in secondary school. And through persistence and consistent hard work throughout the 4 years, I managed to do well for my O levels in secondary school, and hence ultimately scored well enough to go to the school that I would like to go to in junior college. So in that sense, I ultimately succeeded and met my goals of doing well and going to the school of my choice. Yeah, and this was a really valuable lesson for me, as it taught me that to not be discouraged by failures and to continue pushing ahead and persevering and having resilience. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent job, Serene. Bonnie, would you like to give it a shot?
Oh, sorry, the same question?
No, I will present you another question.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
It's my first time, so I'm not going to do a good job.
Tell us about the scariest thing you have attempted. Tell us of the scariest thing you have attempted.
The scariest thing that I've attempted. I guess it's like moving to a new country on my own. So I guess like as a background, like I was in Australia at the time and I was offered a job in Singapore. So at the time I hadn't been to Singapore for like a few years. I've only visited as a holiday, and I decided to just give it a shot and try living in a new country. And yeah, here I am now for the past almost 9 years, and I haven't looked back. So yeah, I guess at the time it was scary because yeah, I just didn't have family here and I didn't know what to expect. But I guess I overcame those adversities. I had to learn a lot of new things. I had a lot of culture shocks, but yeah, I think it's been a good experience. I learned a lot of things that I wouldn't have if I just stayed in my comfort zone. And yeah, do I time myself or like, I'm not sure how it works.
No, Otman is a timer.
Oh, so he'll tell me if I'm exceeding?
By the color that he shows, right now you're green, so you still have time. When you yellow, it's caution, and then red, you can wrap up.
Oh, I see.
It's like a traffic light system.
Oh, cool. So if it's yellow, it's got how many seconds left?
About a minute.
Oh, right, okay. All right, so I guess, I don't know what else to say. This is hard. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, it's difficult to find a new place to live and make new friends, build a community, and be away from family and friends. But I did manage to do it, and with a lot of difficulties in between, a lot of stress. But I think I've grown a lot as a person, and I've yeah, I really pushed myself to develop myself here. I don't know what else to say. Oh gosh, I guess I should sum up. So yeah, it's great experience.
Great first attempt, both Bonnie and Serene. Great first attempt. Guys, we have time for one more question. When was the last time you failed and how did you respond? When was the last time you failed and how did you respond? Anya.
Thank you, Toastmaster Edward, President of the Day and President and Toastmaster of the Day. And good afternoon, good evening, good morning to all of the Toastmasters and the guests. So the question for me this time around is, when was the last time I failed and how did I respond? And when I heard this question, the first incident which came to my mind was when I had adopted my third cat. So I already had two cats and I loved them to death. And I came across this third cat who was paralyzed, and I thought I could take it on. But it turned out to be a lot of work, and I just couldn't handle it because I was also working at the same time, and I was living by myself in a one-bedroom hall kitchen apartment, and there was no space. I tried to make this enclosure of sorts so that she could practice walking, because she needed physiotherapy on her legs, which I used to provide. She needed cleaning regularly, and she needed her medicines. So it was, I think, a full-time job, and I bit a lot more than I could chew, and I failed at it because towards the end of it, I had gotten really frustrated and annoyed with how my life had become, and I failed at it. And I didn't want to, obviously, like, throwing her away on the street was not an option at all. So I responded by putting out feelers out there for people who live in bigger houses, have more resources, who could take care of her. And I got a couple of responses, and I found a really beautiful family who had a helper to take care of the special needs cats, and they took on this little cat of mine, and now she's living the life of a queen, and I'm so happy that I gave up so that she could have a better life for herself. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, Toastmaster Edward.
Excellent, Toastmaster Anya. Excellent. Love taking care of animals myself. Guys, we are at the end of the impromptu session. I commend you all for remembering to greet the audience in the sending order. Excellent job there. You all spoke well. However, I would like to ask the timer to post the time in the chat for us to know how well we did as it relates to time. Before we go into the prepared presentation, we will have a 10-minute break, during which time you can get your coffee or stretch your legs, but we will be right here. Mr. Timer, can you post the times in the chat?
Yeah, of course. Raise your hands.